Welcome to the Tea with the Masters podcast. I am Instructor Ma, here to tell you about today's show. Today's show features some of the world's leading martial arts experts, the scholar, author, speaker, mentor, business coach, and president of the USA Hapkido Union, Grandmaster Richard Hackworth. Visit his page at usahapkidounion.org. This show is sponsored by worldmartialartsmedia.com, the world's leader in martial arts education, information, and entertainment. We invite you to like and share this video with your friends, and subscribe to this channel so that you never miss an exciting episode. Now let's get on with the show.
Hi, this is Sifu Fanning. I'm just reading from a list of questions here that have been presented to me for this podcast. I'm going to read through the questions and give you my answers. I haven't pre-written any of these answers. I'm just going to answer them as I read them. Like, my brain kind of works better that way, and that's how my mentoring program kind of goes too. So question 1, what was the biggest challenge you faced becoming an instructor? You know, when it came to coming up through the ranks, getting to my 4th degree black belt and thinking I was okay to start teaching then, one of the biggest challenges was making sure my content was relevant. You know, if a new person came into the class, it made sure that they were the ones getting the right level of instruction. So starting from the basics, and you know, it's always easy to overlook the basics and go back, because by the time you've reached black belt, you've been a couple of years training, 4 or 5 years training. It depends on the system really. So yeah, it's remembering how vital the basics were. You know, footwork, foot placement, you know, keeping elbows in, stuff like that. It depended on the technique, depended on the... So when a big challenge for me was remembering what it was like to be a beginner when I was turning into it, when I'd become an instructor. So yeah, it goes back to the basics, you know, the foundation, laying the proper foundation blocks. So hopefully that's the right answer there for me anyway. Question number 2. What professional experiences did you have that led you to your current position as a world champion? You know, this question has multiple answers I can put on this one. But for me, the experiences through all the years of going back over the basics as an instructor, you have to remember I've been teaching, we're now in 2023, and I've kind of been helping to instruct since around 1992. So yeah, it's been a long time. So for me, the basics were a key element. You know, it's again, every time I step up to break, whether it's in preparation for a tournament or something I'm doing for the club or a demonstration, it goes back to my footwork, my body placements. And that all led to making sure I was in the correct position, striking correctly. Again, all basics. So while yes, the advanced conditioning helped, the body movements went back to basics. So I can't emphasize basics enough. That's my answer really on that one. Question number 3. What skills have been most beneficial for you as a teacher? I think one of the biggest skills for me is my ability to understand and listen. You know, I've always said in a room full of 30 children that I'm teaching, there's 31 kids, because I am the other kid and I am the one that's there. So people say it's a skill set to be able to be on a child's level. I don't know if it's a skill, but it's definitely a help, and it's definitely helped me in all manner of different classes, seminars, you know, everything that I teach. The understanding and the ability to understand what's going on in the room, what people are doing, how to keep people interested and how to keep them active. I think, you know, that's one of my personal beliefs on that one. Question number 4. Are there certain things I should be doing so that I can learn skills that will help me prepare for my own career in the martial arts? So this is obviously a question written for me to answer directly. So, you know, with this one again, there's so many different answers. You know, when you're prepping and you're starting off in your martial arts career, whether it's taekwondo, whether it's jiu-jitsu, kung fu, hapkido, it doesn't really matter. Once I firmly believe that when you go into a dojo, dojang, whichever, and you start to learn, you commit yourself to that learning. You know, you don't say, oh, well, I've seen it differently on YouTube, or I've seen it differently on whatever websites or, you know, social media. Kind of, you go in and you give your all to it. One thing my master always emphasized, and I still do to this day, is that you get back what you put in. So if you are willing to go into a martial art, commit yourself to that martial art. So that means when you walk into the room, you stop talking about the football game last night. You stop talking about, you know, your drinks at the weekend, whatever. But you now turn your phone on silent unless you really need to have it on. You turn your phone on silent and you commit yourself to that class. So if the class is 1 hour, 2 hours, you know, you have committed yourself to that time, and that will help you greatly in your martial arts career, and it will help you excel going forward. And always remember, you know, when your instructor gives you a task or a technique, don't do it when you think you've learnt it. Keep doing it until your instructor says next, or here's the next one. So that's kind of my tip on that one. Question number 5. What career accomplishments, whether it's working through challenges or any promotions, are you most proud of? Well, that one's easy. I go straight back to 2008 when I earned my 2006, sorry, April 1st, 2006, when I earned my Iron Palm medallion. So my father had worn the Iron Palm medallion from 1972 all the way till he died in 2013. And in 2006, I had been given a set of challenges and breaks that I had to accomplish. And on a day-long trip in London, I managed to complete all the tasks, and I was awarded my Iron Palm medallion, which I still wear proudly to this day. I was the first one from 1972 until the day I got it to earn it. You know, and it's one of my proudest accomplishments. It's one I tell everybody about. You know, it's a bit long-winded, the story to go into for this podcast, but that's another day's story. Yeah, so my Iron Palm medallion is definitely my proudest moment. Question number 6, what is one thing you wish someone had told you when you were in your career stage? When I was starting off, and again, we all have these moments of clarity where you look back and you say, you know, hindsight is a great thing, but there's certain areas of my martial art where I became so focused on certain certain elements of my martial arts, including the breaking, the conditioning. I love the fast-paced, no-nonsense approach that we have. You know, it wasn't about defending myself. It was about using attack as a defense. So a good offense is a better defense. Yeah, these are all the things that we hear throughout the years. There's certain areas where I wish I had been told, you know, concentrate a little bit more on those. But, you know, even now at this stage of 47, I'm still working every day towards being a better me. So I think while for anybody who would ask me, I would say, you know, conditioning, flexibility, agility. Now, agility means being able to move your body. So I know some people who can sit fully in splits, but they cannot kick above head height because the agility and the movement, the dexterity is not there in their back. So these are little things that I find are hugely helpful for me, and they're kind of little bits I pass on. Question 7. What is the most meaningful part of your job? You know, For this one, again, it really depends on which part of my job we're talking about, because when it comes to teaching kids, I have a unique ability with kids because they tend to follow what the instructor says. So me as an instructor, kids will follow you, and I get to see kids grow up. I get to see, like, I've had kids who've come through the ranks with me who are now fathers themselves, and their kids are starting to come to me. It's been a long career, but it's lovely to see. So I think that's something. The meaningful part of the job is watching people gain confidence, and find a different structure in their life. We've all had people come through the doors who've had different circumstances in their home life, in their school life, in their personal life, and I've seen them change the next step, if that makes sense. So they've come from addiction, they've broken free of it, they've now moved on, they've different career paths, they've now got careers, they've houses, they've kids. So yeah, that's kind of a very meaningful part for me. Question number 8: how and where do you find inspiration? Every day I ask myself, what is my inspiration? What is my push? Grandmaster Hackworth has given me a lot of inspiration in the last couple of years. I know we've been in contact most days for the last 2 or 3 years, and we've built a good friendship. And the little things he says to me every now and again, they do inspire me. People have a weird and wonderful way of using social media for good and bad, I suppose. But the inspiration comes from making your haters hate. I know that sounds strange, but if I'm doing it and they're hating me for it, it means I'm doing something right. It's a strange one. It's Arnold Schwarzenegger said, everybody pities the weak, and he's right. But he also said, jealousy has to be earned. So everybody pities the weak, but jealousy has to be earned. I think that's kind of an inspiration too, because I want people to look at me and not be jealous of me, but I want them to do what I can do. And I want them to be inspired to do what I do, because I know that in the breaking world alone, there's a couple of guys that really do inspire me. But at the same time, I know there's also people in the breaking world that I inspire. So sometimes that's as much of an inspiration for me to go up and train. So yeah, that's part of the answer, I think. Question number 9: what values are you committed to? How have they changed since you started your career? I think, starting my career at such a young age, my values changed greatly. I'm now 47, as I said. I started at the age of 4. I grew up in a household where we had 12 to 16 students living in our house. They were the full-time students living in our house. Excuse me. And I kind of watched from a very, very young age all these guys training, breaking, sparring, doing stuff out. We had a shed at the side of the house, and it was big enough for maybe 3 people, but there would be 6 to 10 people in there training, and it was good. It was so. Without getting off a subject, as I tend to do sometimes, the values were hugely installed from a very, very young age of, being committed to what I was doing, being committed and listening to my instructor. When my instructor said jump, I said how high. It wasn't blind. It wasn't following him blindly. It was trusting in what he told me to do. My values have changed to the point of I now pass on as many of those values as I can, but in a changing world. And I say a changing world because people now have social media, they have internet, they've got phones, all the things I didn't have growing up. I didn't get my first phone till I was in my 20s. They hadn't really hit the high note, and even then it was carrying a brick in your pocket that you had to charge for 10 hours to get 3 hours use out of. So yeah, kind of values have changed along the way, but I still hold very, very true values to what I learned. One great one that was given to me by one of my Muay Thai coaches was modern training with traditional values. I think that one's a really good one because we can train traditionally and we can train in the way we trained, you know, but we can also train newer, better ways, not better ways as such, but newer ideas on the training floor. But we can keep our traditional values. Next question, number 10. What was your biggest fear and how did you overcome it? You know, this one could go very deep. I could spend a long time on this question, but I'm going to keep it as short as I can. One of my biggest fears was stepping out from my dad's shadow. My dad was my master. He was my mentor. He was my coach. When I ran my own school, I had to step out from his shadow because people said, oh, you're John's son, you're this, you're that, you know. Do you still do the same things your dad did? So your dad did. And you kind of, yes, I do, but I don't. I do have the same methods, but I've slightly adapted them to suit today's training, if that makes sense. So one of my biggest fears was so you have to remember, so I am Sifu Keith Fanning. My dad was Sifu John Fanning, who then went on to become Sibo, which was the Grand Master. But, you know, for me, the Sifu Fanning name had to be carried. So that was a huge fear for me. Could I carry the name? Could I carry the status that came with that name? You know, it was very, very, there was a lot of weight with that name. There's a lot of people in the world who still remember Sifu Fanning because he was so outspoken and so in your face and up front. Very, very much he could carry it, and I needed to be able to make sure I could carry it too. So yeah, that was one of my biggest fears. How did I overcome it? I went out there and I made a name for myself, and I made sure that people understood that Sifu Keith was not Sifu John, although we were both Sifu Fanning. Yeah, I just had to, you know, since 2012, I've really pushed hard on making Sifu Keith Fanning a name that people would remember, if that makes sense. I know I say that a lot, but sometimes when I talk about these things, it's hard to convey some of the weight behind my dad's name if you didn't know him. So yeah, that was one of my biggest fears, and definitely something I feel I've overcome. And I know in the last 2 years, and especially this year, in talking with Professor Buitron and also Grandmaster Hackworth, that I have definitely overcome it, and it's now time to step it up a gear. Question 11. Why did you decide to be a mentor? What are your goals for your students, your student-teacher relationships? You know, being a mentor is something that I think I aspired to be when I was quite young, because I loved seeing the results my dad could get. I love seeing people, you know, you have to remember, I mentioned earlier about some of the people and the students who lived in our house. So from a very young age, I had what I would call big brothers, who are still, unfortunately, one or two of them have passed away now since, but some of them are still there. And there are still people I know that I watched them come up through the ranks. I watched them become instructors, mentors themselves. Some of them did, some of them didn't. Some of them just, you know, trained for the sake of training and they loved their training, but they never wanted to be instructors. And I've seen the ones that did go on, and they've had very successful schools. They've had successful students, you know, champion students. I think when I started really pushing in 2012, and I had what got so well known as the Sea of Blue. We used to show up at different tournaments, and I would have all my students in their blue t-shirts or their blue jumpers, which is just the school colour, school t-shirt. It was then I realised that the mentoring was something I really wanted to do, because we were getting so well known for the Sea of Blue that we were winning. We were actively doing so well, and people were responding well. And I think it was something nice. It wasn't an ego run. It was just when you see students building that bond that I know I had with people, and they built their own bonds inside their schools, and you kind of see it and you go, yeah, this is something that I really want to do. And the mentoring programs that I'm running and Grandmaster Hackworth is helping me with is hugely beneficial in the terms that I want to help people to be as good as they can be, to push beyond their own limits and reach their own potential. So I think that's I really enjoy doing that with people. So I think that was one of the reasons I kind of wanted to be a mentor and really pushing towards being a mentor. Next question 12. What is your strongest character trait and what is your weakest? My strongest character trait, I like no nonsense, straight talking. I like to know where I stand. If somebody is telling me yes, they're going to do something, I'd like them to do it. And one of my weakest is sometimes I get sidetracked. It's one of my character traits. I get sidetracked. We could be talking about Kung Fu, and all of a sudden we're onto something else, and then we're onto something else, and before we know it, we're 25 minutes into a conversation, and we're going, what did this conversation start for again? It's one of those things where I've done podcasts, I've done interviews, and it starts off great with great intention, and then I kind of get sidetracked because there's so much in my head. You have to remember, I have had 47 years of non-stop martial arts, talking, training, mentoring. The common denominator with a lot of my friends was martial arts. It wasn't anything else. Most of my friends were in the martial arts world. Yes, okay, I had other friends outside the martial arts world, but most of my friends were in the martial arts world. So the common denominator was always martial arts. But it could randomly go from a throw to a punch to a kick to a technique to, the conversation can go anywhere. So that is definitely one of my weaker characters, because, just getting sidetracked. It's easily done. Anyway, question number 13 before I get sidetracked. How do you establish a work-life harmony? That's a very good one, and I found that has changed since I've had kids. Where when I opened my full-time studio, 2012, we got the keys early 2012. We opened up. We built a huge centre of what we would call excellence. I suppose martial arts excellence, because we had everything from bags to floors to ceilings. We everything. Anyway, the work-life harmony was very hard at the beginning because I started down there every morning about 8 o'clock, 8 a.m. and I wouldn't get finished till 10 p.m. But when the kids came along, I found myself making more time for the kids in between classes, in between clients, in between mentoring programs, so you kind of had to, you had no choice. Now what I do is I teach my classes. My two girls come with me to classes, not all of them, but some of them, and I do my own training in the back garden. I now have a little setup in the back garden where I do my training. The girls can come and talk to me while I'm training. Sharon can come out, and my missus can come out and talk to me while I'm training. So it kind of gives me a bit of a better work-life harmony, and they're happier in the fact that I'm not away training 2 hours every night, but I'm in the garden 2 hours every night, so they can look out the window and see me, or they can sit in the garden and talk to me while I train. And I find it, because I train daily anyway, I find it's great because it keeps me connected with them, and then they start to join in, and it's kind of history repeating itself, because my dad used to do it with me. So it's kind of like one of those learned behaviours, isn't it? It's something I seen, and it's now something I'm doing. So, but that's definitely how I get a work-life harmony. Question 14. If you were me, how would you approach becoming a school owner? How would you have approached becoming? Becoming a school owner is a huge step because there's a lot of financial commitment. The pitfalls are absolutely horrendous. I learned the hard way on some of them. The money you make this week might just be enough to cover your bills The money you make next week might just be enough to cover your rent. You might have 4 weeks in a month. You might get 1 week where you've actually got no bills coming out, but it's money you have to kind of keep to one side. So there's a lot of financial commitment and financial. You kind of have to keep an eye on your finances when you own a school. It's great having a school because you've got a constant. You can kind of build your reputation around the school as well. You can keep it clean. So there's a lot of commitment there. So for anybody opening a school, I think there's a huge element there where you need to look at, is it financially viable? Is it going to take all of my time? Is it going to be rewarding, not only financially, but is it going to be rewarding as a person who's teaching? Are you going to enjoy it as much as you can? Because I know when you've got a rent bill coming up, or you've got an electricity bill coming up, whatever, and you're trying to teach a class, it's very hard not to go in there and count the heads just to see how much money you've made tonight. So that's one thing I would always give as a what if maybe if you're going to open it, have a look at these first. There's so many pitfalls there, but if you're going to do it wholeheartedly. Anyway, question 15. Which leadership skills were the most difficult for you to develop? Again, one of the leadership skills, and I call it leadership skill because people, there's a great meme, that you can lead from the front and you can drive, or you can be part of the group and help pull. So there's loads of different ways that you can be in leadership. You can be in leadership, but I find that I was always the first there to make sure the equipment was ready. I was always the last to leave to make sure that the equipment was clean. So I kind of led by example, if that makes sense. So yeah, to me, leading by example was something that I was always able to do. So for me, it wasn't difficult to develop at all. I never asked anybody to do a kick that I couldn't do. I never asked anybody to do a throw, a break. If I asked you to do something, everybody knew I could do it. It wasn't that I couldn't do it. I would get you to demonstrate it, maybe because I hadn't warmed up, I hadn't loosened up. But yeah, leading by example, I think is my biggest asset. And I know it's something that I've helped others to develop, because even my coaching program that I put all my coaches through, I make them lead by example, because I find that it's far easier. Rather than sitting at a table telling somebody what to do, I can actually stand up and do it for them, and then get them to follow or copy. And that to me is a great leadership skill. So that's a personal one for me anyway. Question 16. Where or what do you turn to for continuous learning or skill development? Again, I go back to two people I've mentioned so far that I've really connected with in the last 2 or 3 years is Professor Boutron and Grandmaster Hackworth. Continuous learning can be a conversation with somebody as open-minded as you, and somebody can say to you, you do that really well. Have you tried it this way? And you kind of go, well, okay, that's something new. I find that I've got guys who've come to me from different backgrounds in class, that they've done MMA, taekwondo, kickboxing, whatever. It doesn't matter. They've come to me from a different background. And I am definitely of the mindset that I do not know everything. I'm always willing to learn. I'm always going to different places to learn. I have a firm belief that I can walk into any hall wearing a pair of, plain training bottoms and plain t-shirt, no logos, no brands, no belt, and I'm willing to learn. So that to me is something that I am continuously doing. But then on top of that, I also go back to some of the skills that I learned as an up-and-coming black belt. Because there's stuff that, as I said to you at the very beginning, we go back to basics, and basics can be huge. And you need to listen to what the basics are and how the basics work, because if without the basics, the rest is not going to work. So sometimes continuous learning is going back to stuff you've done in the past and say, right, let's see if I can do that better. And it doesn't mean that you have to learn something new every day. It means that you can better. Sorry, hold on. What's the wording? You can do something better than you could the last time you did it. So yeah, that's kind of a good way for me, I think, for continuous learning. Question 17. What habits have you found help you to be more productive? I am a creature of habit. I only had this conversation last night with a guy on the other side of Ireland called John Braun, who challenged me to a kettlebell challenge this month again. The habits I have are, I like to train late in the evening because I like the night air. I think the night air kind of helps me train a bit more. So yeah, definitely a creature of habit on that one. My Mrs. Sharon would get on to me. If I'm in a bit of a narky mood or a bit of a grouchy mood, she'd say, "Have you done your conditioning today?" No. Get out and do your conditioning. And I'd always come back and calm down, because those things, if my body feels that I've missed it, my body knows and it tries to tell me. And sometimes I can get cranky and grouchy, but it is purely the simple fact that I've missed something and my body doesn't feel right. So, but because I've been doing it for so long, you get to a point in the evening, if you haven't done it, your body can feel it. And it really does kind of, I didn't get finished working with clients last night till 9:30, maybe 9:45 p.m. And at 10:05 p.m. I went into the back garden and I started doing my kettlebells and my workout and my conditioning. So it gets done regardless, because if I didn't, I would feel like I cheated on myself. And so I'm definitely a creature of habit on that one. But the conditioning has helped me in more ways than I could ever say in this podcast. It would take me too long. But yeah, that's definitely one of my biggest habits. Question 18. What are the first 3 things that you recommend people do to achieve success? Again, I'm all about goal setting, so this one really does, it's not even 3 things. I could pick 10 things. If I was going to tell anybody right now, success in your martial arts career, success in... I'm going to keep it martial arts because it's easier for me, but success in martial arts is, as I said earlier, commitment. Commit yourself to those hours, but not only those hours. So if you have 2 classes per week and each class is an hour to an hour and a half, that's not all you train. What you do is, if you were training on a Monday night and your class is 60 minutes, say, on Tuesday, you practice some of that 60 minutes from the night before. So on Wednesday, when you get back to class, you now have a fresher understanding of what happens. Now, Wednesday night's class is again 60 minutes. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you have the opportunity to practice any content from the 2 classes you've done that week, because there's a long gap between Wednesday and Monday. And if you don't practice again, you're not building habit, you're not building resistance in the muscles, you're not building what's the best way to put this? Basically, if you're only training 2 hours a week and you're not practicing any of the rest of the week, you're never really going to succeed. So for success in martial arts, commit yourself to what you're doing. Be committed for that 60 minutes that you're there. Don't worry about your phone. Don't worry about anything else outside of the room. If you want to talk football, if you want to talk baseball, you want to talk whatever it is after class, no problem whatsoever. But try and keep your mindset in the class for the time that you're in the class. And then also, as I said, don't just go to the gym on the days in between classes. Practice some of what you've learned. Question 19. What do you think I can improve that would be most beneficial to goals becoming a champion? Mindset and focus. They're the 2 things. Your mindset and your focus. A battle can be won before it's fought. And that is a true saying, because when it comes to being that person that moves forward and learns how to become a champion, you have to have that focus, you have to have that mindset, you have to have the dedication. So yeah, they're the things I would actually say most would improve and help you become a champion. Question 20. Almost there, guys. Only 21 questions. Question 20. What could you have done differently to reach your goal of being a world champion sooner? Now, this is something I don't think I could have become a world champion any sooner. I don't think I was mature enough. I don't think I was ready. You know, with what I was doing, again, this is a conversation I only had recently. As we mature in our martial arts and as we mature in life, I suppose, things seem differently. Yes, it would have been nice to be a champion in my 20s. It would have been nice to be a champion sooner than I was, but I don't think I was ready. I honestly don't think I was. You know, I matured from 2012 onwards. I know I've matured a lot more. I know it's only 11 years, but it took me till I was in my 30s to actually really realise what I wanted and where I wanted to go. So yeah, I don't think that question, well, it's a good question. I don't think I could have become a champion any sooner. And if I did, I don't think I would have appreciated it as much as I did in the end. So maybe that's part of my answer, you know. Sometimes you have to appreciate what you do get. Last question 21. How often do you give feedback to your mentoring students? I talk to everybody daily. So, you know, people can text me. I use WhatsApp a lot, so people can text me. They can ask me questions. They can ask for help. They can, you know, ask for inspiration. I also use, with some of my mentoring students, I use honesty posts. So what I do is I'll send them a picture of me doing my conditioning, or a picture of me after my conditioning, or a picture of me doing some of my training, or a video of kettlebells, something. It's an honesty post. And I feel that it's a great way to keep people honest, because somebody say to you, oh, and I only posted a video recently on social media about this as well, where people will say to you, yeah, I did that. And then in the back of their head, they know they didn't. You know, so you can pay me to be a mentoring student if you want and not do anything that I tell you. But you're never going to get the results that you want. And again, we could have all those old sayings, you know, don't complain about the results you didn't get from the work you didn't do. There's all of those out there. There's loads of them. But the feedback to my mentoring students, we all need a pat on the back. We all need recognition for work well done. You know, we all do. We all need to feel appreciated. We all need to feel we're doing well. And it goes back to our childhood. We need people to say, well done, you're doing a great job, keep going. You know, you're getting there. I can see the difference. So it's not that you're being dishonest with people, but you're making sure that you're giving them the appreciation, the acknowledgement of their efforts and their hard work. I think that's something that I know I strive on, because, you know, when it comes to it, people from all around the world watch me on social media. They're watching my videos, they're watching my posts, and you never realise just who's watching till every now and again you get a message out of the blue. Seen your video last night, Keith. Fantastic work. Keep it up. You're doing a great job. Hi from wherever. And you go, wow, you know, we're connected on Facebook. We haven't talked in 2 years, but thank you for your encouragement. That really has helped me, you know. And again, like that, because my father was in the martial arts and the mentoring for so long, there's people in Australia who've trained with him, but there's also people now all around the world who can trace their martial arts lineage back to my dad, because one of his students or one of his black belts had moved away from Ireland and went to America, Canada, Spain, Australia, wherever. But those people are now associating back to me because of the Sifu Fanning name. And again, when it comes to the feedback for mentoring students, I even love the feedback. I love the feedback people give me to say, you know what, I feel fantastic this week, Keith. Or, you know, when I sent to John Braun the other night on my kettlebell challenge, I went, you know what, that was absolutely horrible. I didn't enjoy that at all. I got it done. The numbers were there. I did what I had to do. Didn't enjoy it, but I'm glad that I did it. Next day, text him. I said, you know what? my body's sore, but I feel good. So yeah, I suppose that's the conclusion of my 21 questions. Hopefully I haven't rambled on too much and I've stayed on point as much as I possibly could. Again, I'd like to thank Grandmaster Hackworth for bringing me on this podcast, and hopefully everybody enjoyed it. I look forward to working with you guys again soon, and talk to you then. Thanks very much, guys.
This is Instructor Ma, and you have been watching the Tea with the Masters podcast. On behalf of our show host, Grandmaster Richard Hackworth, I would personally like to thank you for watching today's show and remind you to visit our sponsor, worldmartialartsmedia.com, the world's leader in martial arts education, information, and entertainment. We look forward to having you join us again next time. We love to hear from you, so please feel free to leave us some words of encouragement in the comments section.